Every now and then I get asked if I am able to assist someone with a royal entity, such as a king Merid or a king Ifrit, or a queen jinn, etc. My answer always consists of two letters, N and O, no. Once again, sellers have thought of yet another scheme to lure people into their world of BS. According to some scholars, the world of jinn is somewhat similar to ours. They have leaders, kings, queens, and then the normal jinn, like normal people like you and I. Some scholars state that some jinns are known by a color simply because they belong to a kingdom that is referred by that specific color. Such jinn also well adapt that color on their body. What would happen if the President of the USA was placed in a home and told you can do everything you do, but you must do it from this one spot? I think not. This would not happen. So what makes you think a royal entity would allow itself to be bound? Royal entities have a huge purpose in their world. They have a large amount of tasks and obligations to fulfill, just like the leaders of our countries. They are not simply going themselves to be bound to an object so that they can assist you whenever you wish, drop what they are doing and come flying to you. Can royal entities be used for anything? Of course, but one thing they sure as hell can't be used for is being bound to that $45.99 ring. Specific amals, rituals that require an intense amount of spiritual power are done so one can get in contact with a royal entity. These rituals are long, hard, and so very dangerous. Towards the end of the amal ritual, jinns from that kingdom do everything they can to stop that individual from performing that amal ritual. From scaring you, coming in horrendous forms, making awful noises, even coming in your dreams when you're asleep, and if one is not aware of the proper knowledge needed when doing such amal's rituals, then those entities can wreak havoc on the loved ones of the one performing the amal ritual. Now what makes anyone think that a royal entity and the members of its kingdom will say, "Oh yes, bind him her away"? During a ritual just to speak to a royal entity, the members of that kingdom do so much so you don't speak to their king-queen. So what makes anyone think binding an entity of that nature to an object is possible? Because it's not. If the one doing the ritual is successful in their amal, then at the end the royal entity will appear, ask what it is called for, and from there, this part is very important. Drum roll. Assign another jinn from its kingdom to assist you in that task, but will never solely do it on his own, and will only get involved if the entity that it has assigned to you has been killed, or cannot accomplish the task given by the conjurer. Even in a situation like this, the royal entity can send other jinn helpers before it gets fully involved itself. Just like the leaders of our world, the leaders of the jinn's world are an important figure with a great amount of responsibility. Can any leader or royalty-like entity be bound? Of course, as I said earlier, the world of the jinns is not too far different than ours. Just like how we have one leader of all, president, prime ministers. There are also smaller leaders such as mayors, governors, etc. Now in the jinn world, the king of a kingdom is the overall ruler of all. How things are handled, even how laws and punishment are enforced of that kingdom. The jinns that belong to a specific kingdom will also belong to a personal tribe. What does a tribe consist of? A tribe is a group of jinn that are in the same family. Similar to our world, like the Smith family or Miller family, Jones family, a tribe usually contains family members, and in this tribe there is usually an elder jinn, wiser jinn that is in charge of the entire tribe. Now such an entity can be bound under specific circumstances, which I will not discuss here. Some tribes are extremely large and can have thousands of members. Some tribes are small and they only have 5 members, but no matter if it's even 2 members, each tribe will have a leader. And some will label this leader royalty, which in actuality it is not. Now I have seen certain kind royal entities bound, but as I said earlier, the king-queen cannot be bound and never will be. What are these royal entities that can be bound? Well, usually below a king jinn is another jinn, and below that another, and below that another. Now usually the third jinn below the king can be bound to an object, but it is extremely rare. This happens when the conjurer has very strong affiliations with the king-queen of that jinn's kingdom and has dealt with them for years. In such a case, a king-queen jinn will allow a high royal entity from its kingdom to be bound, as this also makes it easier for messages to be relayed sooner from the conjurer to the king in dire situations. Sounds odd. Such entities are also very hard to bind. They are easier to call forth and talk to than to bind, because when a jinn is bound, some of its powers get limited. I know it would be great and wonderful to have a king-queen jinn in our keep, but I'm sorry to tell you it's far from possible. For one to even think a king-queen jinn will leave all they're doing, rush over to you as you rub their vessel, and start granting your wishes is just an ignorant and a selfish thought. We need to learn to be somewhat logical. We need to stop looking at captivating titles and descriptions. We need to be wiser and see these false and silly statements made up by some sellers are just another phony selling tactic. Ask questions, research, and most importantly, use your brain. One only gets scammed if they allow themselves to be scammed. With proper research and knowledge, one will have a far easier time spotting the truth. Inshallah.